This morning, a woman at the centre of countless stories about her career, her addiction to drugs, bankruptcy and her love life tells us the way she's been treated by the press was a form of bullying, quote unquote, and that the News of the World in particular had a personal vendetta against her. Kerry Katona was in Atomic Kitten before appearing in series like I'm a Celebrity and Celebrity Big Brother. And she says she believed her phone was hacked repeatedly, with voicemail messages being listened to from her ex-husband, Brian McFadden, a former Westlife member, and from her drug dealer at the time. And Kerry Katona is here. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell us how you do feel you have been treated by certain newspapers and why.
Well, when the News of the World was running, it became a personal vendetta, I believe. I was on the front cover of that paper almost every week, if anything. The News of the World made me famous, more so. Gave me a household name, but for all the wrong reasons. Whenever I try to get myself clean, there'd be another bad story on the front page of the paper.
But there could only be a bad story if you'd done something bad. Does that not follow?
Yeah, not all the time though. Sometimes, I mean, there was other newspapers as well about that I was a prostitute and completely made up stuff, some of it. But I had a phone call from the police last year, I think it was, and, you know, obviously when they all broke, the news broke, there was files of paper with account numbers on there of mine, my driving licence number, all kinds of things. I went into the police and I listened to 22 voice messages that they'd actually listened to. I mean, I felt with friends and family. There was messages from the nursery that my kids was at, and I actually thought I isolated myself away from all my friends because I thought they're all selling stories on me, and it turned out that it was, well, the hacking.
So when you say, if you use the phrase personal vendetta, it implies that there is one person at a particular newspaper that really doesn't like you for whatever reason. Is that what you really think? Or actually, was it just that stories, negative stories, wild stories, crazy stories about you sold the paper?
Well, it's really strange because I was with Max Clifford for a while, and Max...
When you say with him, he represented you?
Yeah, he represented me, and Max obviously was with the News of the World as well, and there was a story that was going to break about me not having a driving licence, and Max asked him not to break the story, and they fell out over this story, and next thing you know, I became like the pawn between the pair of them, and it was like they were just trying to get at me to get at Max, and it was really strange, to be honest with you, and it got me down massively. I mean, almost every other week I was on the front cover of the News of the World. Well, they say rubbish sells, and I honestly believe that the News of the World had a front cover printed, Kerry found dead. I felt that was the way they were pushing me, that's what they wanted.
But how can a newspaper push you in that
just
direction?
by the stories. For a personal experience, now it's different. I read stuff about myself, it goes over my head. I've been clean for 2.5 years. I've got myself on the straight and narrow. But back then, I was on a lot of heavy medication. Obviously, I was taking A-class drugs. I was in a destructive marriage, which wasn't helping. And I got a bit obsessed with the papers as well. So when you're reading these stories about yourself, not just about the drugs or anything like that, even now, though, sometimes about your body issues and things, when you think the worst thing about yourself in your own head, that a national newspaper or a magazine picks up on that and prints it worldwide, or it really gets to you and it affects you mentally and physically as well.
Did it make you a bit paranoid?
Yeah, very paranoid. It's I mean, when I talk about the news world, it actually upsets me because it reminds me of my dark days, and it upsets you because people have this impression of you up until they actually meet me in the flesh, that's not the person I am. It's a story that's gone 10 times over the top from a tiny little thing that has been blown out of proportion.
So what were the true stories and what were the inaccurate stories?
Well, it depends really on what story you really want to know. There was that many, I can't remember. I got lost in my life, massively got lost in my life. I wasn't addicted to cocaine. It was more so being married to the guy I was with. I couldn't stop taking drugs unless I split up with him. I'm trying to tread very carefully how I'm saying all this. Yeah. And you know, my mum sold a story as well with them, and it really got to you. I felt like I had no friends, no one there to help me.
Did you ever complain to the Press Complaints Commission?
Absolutely. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times. But the one thing that they got away with, because they knew I was going into bankruptcy, they knew I wouldn't sue because I didn't have the money to.
Right.
So,
but the Press Complaints Commission could get involved in order to...
Yeah, but not really. I know that my agency at the time, they done all that for me, but nothing actually ever really got done about it unless I was to sue, which is a massive... money commitment with solicitors and lawyers, which I didn't have at the time. I had 4 children going to private school, which is still the case, and I was going through bankruptcy. So I couldn't afford it, and they knew that as well. So that's how they kind of got away with continue doing what they were doing.
So what always happens in these scenarios is that celebrity complains about the press, and then journalist says, but didn't you do interviews with the News of the World, or photo shoots, or when you happy to have your photograph published on the front page when you'd lost a load of weight? And how do you respond to that?
Well, the thing is, the way I look at that is my life, my choice for me to choose what I want to sell and what not to sell. I sometimes think, they say you make a deal with the devil, you know, but at the end of the day, it kind of took a different turn. It became more about my personal life than my career. And now I have learned that from my personal experiences, now I don't mind because I've got through the other side. So the more people know my story, hopefully, the more people can take something from my story and learn from it and hopefully not make the same mistakes.
There's also the other argument from people like me, which is, didn't newspapers have the defence of, this is in the public interest? You're a drug addict, you're in a girl band, you're potentially seen as a role model by some 13-year-old girls. It's in the public interest to put it in the public domain that you're not necessarily a role model.
The one thing I've never wanted to be is a role model.
Of course not.
Yeah, I understand.
It can come with the turf.
Absolutely. It comes with that. But the way I look at this, now I've gone through all the rubbish I've been through, I was just a human being who makes mistakes like Joe Bloggs does. But I've got through all that now, and nobody's perfect, and we all make mistakes. And unfortunately, rather than them writing more and more bad stories, oh, trouble Kerry, cokehead, mum of 4, you know, why didn't anybody actually come out and go, we want to help you here, Kerry? You know,
but who would you have expected to do that? Who would you have expected to say we want to help you?
Well, I just think when people are going through times like they are doing, I mean, for instance, Amy Winehouse, what she went through, I mean, I would love to see a newspaper get a campaign to get Amy clean, you know, and rally round support rather than kicking somebody when they're down, because it doesn't help. It kind of drives them towards destruction.
But how would you feel if a newspaper decided to take it upon themselves to go, we'll get Kerry clean, let's start a national... You would feel pressure, you would feel stress, because to come off drugs is a really difficult, stressful thing. If you've got the pressure of a national newspaper every Sunday or whenever, then that could be a problem, couldn't it?
I think either way, it's going to be kind of pressure, whatever you're going through. I think, in all honesty, nobody probably could have helped me. I was the only one who could help myself, which is what I did do eventually when I hit rock bottom, and I went to a boot camp called G.I. Jane Boot Camp where, you know, pure exercise, believe it or not. I mean, for me, back in the day, I mean, I got diagnosed with bipolar, so I was on a lot of medication, and the doctor said to me, you know, for depression, go to the gym, exercise. My exercise was a few lines of cocaine and a kebab. I know it sounds funny, but that's how it was.
I'm only laughing because you're laughing, or else I wouldn't have done, I promise.
No, but that I mean, it is funny when you say it, but that is how my life was, and there was no one there to help me. The man I was married to certainly wasn't a help up until I went to boot camp, and as silly as this sounds, exercise changed my life. Because it was the first time I had a natural high.
Yes.
You have to remember, I was born to a single parent who also had, back in the day they call it manic depression, and was a self-harmer. You know, first time I saw my mum slit her wrist, I was 3 years of age. I got put into foster home, and the first drug I ever took was from my mother at the age of 14. She told me it was sherbet. I knew no different.
What was it?
Speed.
Gosh.
So that's the life I had, and people say to me, no, do you deserve a second chance? I didn't really get a first chance, to be honest with you. And in your 20s, after my first marriage broke down, I felt a failure as a wife, as a mother, as a woman, and also as a daughter as well. And those combinations combined are really powerful to bring somebody to an all-time low.
Some messages from listeners. Gillian Weir has emailed Kerry. She says, can you please ask Kerry how she squares her attitude to the press with her column in OK magazine, in which she often criticises other celebrities?
It's not a criticism, it's an opinion. I mean, when I do my OK column, I have one of the reporters from OK ring me up and give me different subjects, and I give my opinion and put it down, and that's not criticism. It's a bit of banter, and it's part of the job, really. It's not me criticising anybody, because some of the people I'm talking about I don't actually know, and it's just my opinion.
But some of your opinions about other celebrities out there are critical.
Yeah. I guess I don't intend them to be criticism. I'm trying to go off. I mean, I tend to go off on what is coming on my Twitter and what other people are kind of saying as well. So it's just...
So is that different from, say, an editorial in the News of the World saying Kerry Katona is an unfit mother?
Well, I would never call anybody an unfit mother myself personally, because I think the problem I had was so much more deeper. I mean, mine's kind of about fashion, or what people are wearing, or what somebody said nasty about somebody else. Like, for instance, I think... I can't even remember something. Mine's tedious little things, not really that major. But I think for something as, Kerry's children should be taken off her, which I guess at the time they probably did have a kind of point until they actually knew what was going on in my life, which I'm trying to get my story across as well. My column's not as heavy. It's a bit of light-hearted fun.
Phil in Leeds says, I can't believe you have this self-centred woman on your programme. It's always about publicity with Kerry Katona. Sick of seeing her on magazines, sick of hearing her seeking people's pity for her self-inflicted addictions and indulgences. She lives to be on the front cover of every magazine, but only on her terms. What is she famous for? Lip syncing? Drugs? Getting fat? Losing weight?
Wow. I won't call myself self-centred. A lot of the magazines, I don't have a choice unless I do an interview. A lot of even papers and newspapers and the front cover magazines, I don't know I'm going to be on the front cover of it until I see it in the garage when I go and get my bread and milk. So most of the time I pick a magazine and go, what have I done this week?
So it's a kind of sinking feeling. There must be occasions where you've looked good, you've been on a night out, you've lost a load of weight, you're feeling confident, where you're pleased to have your picture on the front of, whichever magazine.
To be honest with you, I've been in the industry that long now. It's got to a certain point now where that goes over my head. Up until, like I say, I go into the garage, get my bread and milk, I see myself on the cover, I go, what's going on now? What have I been up to this time? So I take it all now with a pinch of salt, whereas before I was a little bit obsessed with it. It got to me.
But don't you need that constant oxygen of publicity, if you like, in order to continue to get work? A column in OK Magazine or a slot on This Morning or whatever?
I think everyone's a bit different in the industry. I mean, for instance, like Ant and Dec, there's no publicity with them. They go and do their job, which is what I would love to be able to do.
What is your job?
I haven't got a clue. If I knew it, I'd let you know.
I do.
I'll tell you what my job is, Victoria. My job is being a mother of 4 and try and get my kids through school.
Okay, but you have to earn a living to do that, and they're still at private school. So what is your job?
My job is, well, now it's got to a point is what I really want to do, which I'm trying to get out there, is to build a reborn centre and become the face of a reborn centre. People who have gone through addiction, low self-esteem, bereavement, codependency, like a rehab centre, but it's exercise-based and help turn people's lives around. Divorce, bankruptcy. I want to try. I've been through it all myself, and can I just say to that email, I haven't been through all these things just to get in the papers. These are things that have happened to me that people have then gone and sewed stories on me that have then got in the papers. Obviously, I then want my right to reply. So I will then tell a story and say, this is what happened, it's gone through, it's public interest, I'm now telling you my side of the story.
Okay.
So I haven't got it right, I need to get bankrupt. Let me lose all my money. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get addicted to drugs, that'll get me on the front cover of the paper. I'm going to be a terrible mother just so I can be on the front cover of the paper. That isn't the case. Unfortunately, I got lost in life. And because I'm in the public domain, people know what's going on in my life. They then tell stories, which of course sometimes isn't always true, or it might be true, so I've got to give my right to reply, because I'm not going to sit back and take it all.